natural.
Normal. Natural.
I think if we would admit it out on the surface, our friends and neighbors who think they're the only one this is happening to would feel a little bit better about it. I think, believe it or not, people just like you and I struggle with memory problems every day. It's earned bills, and we desperately search for ways to combat this dilemma. But the one thing that we do, and we work the hardest at, is hiding it from our neighbors. Right?
You don't struggle so hard. It comes faster back. Have you noticed that? If you grab it and you insist on knowing now, you get yourself worked up and it's harder.
Yeah, I think my favorite method is just to say, all right, well, I'll worry about that later.
Yeah, exactly.
And all of a sudden, you're going along, and boom, it jumps out. That's good.
Don, and I'm sure you've experienced this as a pastor. What's so miraculous about this memory thing, and especially with the elderly. And I was so glad it stated it in this lesson, that evidently people have experienced this. Yeah. That you go and visit someone, they don't know their own daughter, they don't know their own husband, but you start saying, and in here it says, it didn't say the Lord's Prayer, I think it said the 23rd Psalm, or singing Amazing Grace, and they can start reciting it, word for word. I think that is so amazing, so miraculous. And another experience I had was a young man lived next door to me, and he had a motorcycle. And I had just bought a new white little Oldsmobile. And this young man and I were standing there talking about it. He left, and he had a terrible motorcycle accident, which left him without memory. And so we were asking the father when he come up to check his house what we could maybe do, and he says, you know, the best thing you could do is to take your two daughters and go down there and visit him. And we walked in that room. He was sitting up in his bed, and he looked at me, and he said, how's that Oldsmobile? And I tell you, his mother, the tears just started streaming down, and the doctor said that some of the things that'll bring it back, isn't that miraculous, is a last incident or something. I still get chills over that when I see that. I can still see Randy laying in his bed and saying, how's that Oldsmobile? He hadn't remembered.
Anyone else?
We had a woman who had Alzheimer's, and she was late stages, who corrected the lady that came in and played the piano. If she mistook a word, sang the wrong word, she was corrected. This lady knew evidently the entire hymnal. Still, all the way there.
I think that's sort of what this lesson is telling us, that we should make a practice of worship. We should make a practice of reading the Bible. We should make a practice of praying, even if it is only the Lord's Prayer, so that when we need those things, they will come back to us. I had an aunt that had Alzheimer's, and in her later stages, my mother said they would go see her, and she didn't know anything, just didn't know them, didn't know anything else. And before they would leave, they would always say, Eva, do you want to pray? And she would pray. Yes. And it would be quite coherent prayer. So if we have the Word of God and the love of God deep in our hearts, it's something that we will not lose. We will endure, as it says here.
And I might add, the lady that I was speaking of, it not only was the music that I was first introduced with this, because I walked in and she was at choir practice, and she had sung in the choir, been a very faithful member. And that's exactly what it's doing. And I walked in and she was holding the book. It was upside down on the wrong page, and they struck the keys on the piano of a Christmas song, and she immediately started singing. Like I said, it's just miraculous what the Word of God does.
In our meeting yesterday, Kate told us that we should all spend every day in meditation. She said, regardless of where it is, or what you're doing, just spend an hour a day. She said, I'm sure that with all of our problems and things, they'll be turned around. And she was explaining some of the problems that she had. And she said she really made time. She said, I really made time for that hour or however long every day to be in meditation. Well, I'm very sinful because I don't meditate when I'm here. Well, sometimes I meditate when I'm walking. But I think it's so easy for us to say, oh, we're going to spend time meditating, we're saying to ourselves, and something comes up, and before you know it, it's the next day, and you still haven't spent any time with God. And I think we are all kind of guilty, and I shouldn't say that because maybe I'm judging, but I think we are guilty about not spending any time with God. Another thing that she emphasizes, that we could be aliens in a foreign land, which could be our church. And I thought that was an interesting thing that she brought up about that. So she had a lot of thought along this line.
And what's the first thing we say if we intend to meditate or we intend to read a chapter today? The next day, what do we say? I forgot.
Yes, absolutely.
I forgot. So we need to remember.
Don't you think it can be extremely simple, though, this remembering? This, we have to be a little bit alert. But don't you all get flashes of thoughts, you know, just become maybe a part of a stanza of a song or a verse or two that flits across your mind? Now, whoops, God, what am I supposed to be thinking about? You know, it's a reminder of whose I am, and wait a minute, I better stop all this noisiness and listen to that and be reminded.
I think it's interesting under Living the Faith here. It says memory is at the heart of the Christian faith, life, and worship. Recently I've heard several radio programs where they're talking to educators, and they're saying that memory is being de-emphasized in our education system now. And that's counterproductive based upon everything we've been talking about is what you have in your memory.
Sunday school used to be teaching small children memory verses. I'm trying to remember what we called them, jewels or something, that they could carry through their life with them. I don't know that we do that anymore, but it's important. I know when we were in El Paso and I was diagnosed one July day with torn retina, and we'd only been there a short time. I didn't know the doctors, I didn't know the hospital, I knew no one to speak of except my church maybe, and I was brand new there. And lying on the table waiting for the doctor to get there because there was emergency surgery, those Bible verses were coming back, and I was thankful that they were there.
I agree with Richard. I do think we're not emphasizing memory enough. I think our young generation today is so plugged in, so in technology, that if you'd unplug them, I don't know what would happen to them.
And that affects your brain